Status update. It is January 7th, 2025. The time is 10 a.m. In attendance are Commissioner Notari's on the phone and Commissioner Brooks and Duncan in person. And are there changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Public comment. Okay, hearing none. Our first item is our Justice Building update with David Mendez, please.
Good morning. David Mendez with Turner and Townsend Curie. I've distributed the update to the spreadsheet on where we stand with the contingencies for the construction of the new Justice Center expansion. The items in yellow that you'll see, so the first section is the design contingency, which we've utilized 61% of that design contingency, 29% of the construction contingency. The yellow items are the newest items that haven't been executed. I plan to execute the items that are finalized here this next week. There are a couple of them that I thought there were going to be costs to in there that come back that there's no cost on some of the items. A new item is a minor thing, adding a hose bib to the lower floor. They've had an elevator review with the local jurisdiction and the elevator subcontractor. So we've got some additional elevator costs. I still do not have, I know I brought this up a few weeks ago, the evidence storage was determined that we need to have the wet fire sprinkler system in there is a problem, and they don't want that. So we've come up with an alternative to going with similar to a halon. I'm not sure what that system is called, but it's a system that doesn't rely on water for putting the fire out. The other alternative is to have a dry sprinkler head system in there that's significantly less expensive than that other system. So we're waiting for some pricing to come in on that. Down on the construction contingency items, I split out one of the fire protection issues that we were talking about in that $150,000. I pulled $10,000 of that out of the design contingency. It's part of something that the contractor missed in putting together the scope of work for the subcontractors. And there's the last item on there is number 17 is repair boom damage at the bridge beam. We still don't have numbers on that, not finalized. So that's just a rough order of magnitude on that. Moving on to FF&E, just to update you. I know I've promised you a review of what those costs are going to be. It's going to be a couple of weeks yet before I get quotes back from the different suppliers of furniture. And I do want to run that past you. I know it's been a subject of discussion about the quality and quantity of some of those furnishings. So I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to take a look at that and question those before we finalize that. Planning to finalize the order by the end of the month, first week in February, so that we hit this installation date properly. But I will review that. I'm not sure exactly how. Maybe you could give me some input as to how you want to review that. I can give you the printout by floor on what the furnishings are, and have you look at it separately, or we can have a sit down and page turn some of that. That's probably pretty time consuming. Maybe that's something you want to handle separately.
Can we let you know next week?
Sure.
How we want to handle that, and then we are not here. Well, we could have a Thursday meeting or a Friday meeting that week, but the last week of the month we're in Boise, so we won't be having our regular status update at Tuesday morning. But next week we'll be able to give you, I think, some direction on how we want to either schedule a separate meeting or just have you give us some materials and we review offline.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
And that's what I have for update. No new surprises, although just workers were working, so there were a lot of staff that were on vacation over the holidays. So we'll see. This Thursday is our first meeting back, so we'll see how we stack up after everybody's had some time to think about what they're doing. So,
okay.
Any questions that I might answer?
I don't have any, Bill. No questions. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 2, facilities update with our director, Jeff Voller, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Voller for the record. Just wanted to update you on a couple of the other projects we have going on in the county. The HVAC replacement for the admin building, just to let you know, we've received the final plans from the design engineer on that, so we will be submitting for permits within the next week and also putting out the request for bids on that. So just to give you an idea where we're going on with that. So we'll probably be receiving bids in just over a month on that, and then getting ready for projects on that. Just as a reminder, that project is designed in phases. Basically, as you kind of think about the different departments in the building, each one of those are considered a phase. Some of it will be evening and weekend work that we'll end up doing so we can maintain the operations that we need to maintain with the county. So we'll be meeting with any interested bidders to make sure they understand that phasing and are appropriately considering the impact that they would have as they move throughout the building. The second one I want to update you on is the jail pod project. That has been submitted for permits. Part of the process with the city of Coeur d'Alene as they go through the permitting process is to send the plans through all of the different departments. So fire, sewer, water, roads and engineering. One thing that came back to us on that is they are going to require us to do some sidewalk work on government way. So I gave you a map. And so Street and Engineering has basically identified areas where they feel like our approaches have too much slope to meet current ADA standards, as well as a couple areas where the sidewalks are broken and an uneven surface that needs to be ground down. So while this has no impact to the work that we were doing, it's outside on the street, it's not even near where we're doing, the city does use that as leverage to get us to complete work that they feel like is unsafe. And they have been doing that all over the town, and they're taking a pretty hard line on that, while this has no bearing and impact on the work that we're doing inside the pods, they are going to require us to do that. So I'm bringing that to you just for attention. We are working with the design team to revise the plans to include this in the site plan, and we'll be bringing up numbers for what that work will entail for us. So I just wanted you to be aware that that is coming. And that is an approach that the city's been using here recently to get a lot of additional work done out of projects.
Great. Questions? Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update. All right. Item 3, historic preservation. And this is with Courtney, is it Beebe and John Mueller? Because I always want to say baby. So, yes, we've got the America 250 Grant Award. That's exciting. And then a 2025 CLG grant application. So go ahead.
Right. So we'd like to do one follow-up first on the America 250 grant. So the America 250 grant, thank you, Commissioner Duncan, for affording that opportunity to us. We did take the opportunity to apply for that grant, and we have received approval for $25,000. The grant will go to 2 projects. The first is a photographic exhibit of the old courthouse here on the campus. The 100-year anniversary of the courthouse is in 2026. The grant timelines end in May of 2026. So we would be expending our time over the next year selecting photographs, having those produced, and then working with facilities to have those hung here on the county campus. It would be a permanent exhibit that we do own. I understand that there are concerns when it comes to grant work with our staff time. This particular project would only include the staff time of hanging the photographs and working with facilities to determine their location. All of the other work will be performed by some of our volunteer historians who will select the photographs with public input, and then we will pay someone privately to produce the exhibit itself.
Okay, how about auditing as far as what you need from the auditing department and the reporting requirements for this grant?
Sure. So we, as the commission, will keep track of all volunteer hours. Those will be submitted to the auditor to report, and they will pay the invoices. So we will select the contractors using the standard select 3. None of the expenses are over $10,000. So we would just be bringing those contracts to you for approval and then payment of the invoices at the end.
Okay.
The America 250 grant only requires a 10% match on our behalf, so we would be putting our county budget funds that are already allotted to us towards that, as well as our volunteer time.
Okay. So I think the BOCC pays your payables. So we'll continue to do that. So that won't be through the auditor's office unless the auditor's office would like a change in that.
Brandy Falcon for the record. I think we'll just want to touch base on some of the finer points of the grant, like if it's a pass-through, if there's any federal relation, because then we have to report it on our CFA. And so is it on the agenda this afternoon for approval?
No.
No, we won't be presenting the grant agreement for another week or two.
Okay,
so when we
perfect.
have
That gives us time. So I'll have our senior grant accountant touch base with you guys.
Okay.
So, thank you.
The second application, or excuse me, the second project through that application is a establishment of what we call the Historic Preservation Network. This is in order to facilitate tourism and heritage tourism throughout the county. We'll be purchasing historic markers and including a QR code and placing them at 9 locations throughout the county. Those locations we, in our grant, selected as the local museums in each of the municipalities. So Post Falls, Rathdrum. Accompanying that, we'll be using our budget funds to produce a tourism brochure. So what we are seeing this as is an opportunity to market to heritage tourism, which is a billion-dollar industry, and to our local communities, the opportunity to leave the Coeur d'Alene area and go out into the county and spend funds in the other municipalities.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is there a need for formal action to accept?
When we have the grant agreement, I think we will give it to legal for review
Yes.
and then the auditor, yeah.
And I guess maybe the second thing is just an explanation, maybe for those here who don't know, about what the America 250 program is about. You brought that forward to us. It's a federal and state program in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And so the program was set up. States have been given money to allocate to local agencies, municipalities, and counties to begin to set up their own means of participating in the celebration. So this is pretty cool. Not everybody in the state got a grant, and so we're thankful for the heads up and the hard work of those that put the effort together.
Over the weekend.
Yeah, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
And so congratulations to Courtney and also to you all for bringing that forward for us. So thank you.
Sure.
And we do see it as a true reflection of the American Revolution. The photo exhibit will focus on the expression of our individual rights here in Kootenai County throughout our history, and then the reflection of our settlement in the local communities through the heritage tourism.
With the celebration of the 100-year courthouse, will we do something with the 250 America as well? Is it kind of a combination or two separate?
Yes, we are on their calendar of events for the statewide America 250 program.
Okay.
So John is heading up a opportunity for us to put together a subcommittee to create that celebration in 2026.
Okay. Do we know what month? I mean, what
We're
month?
going for May,
May?
June. Yeah.
Okay.
We have talked about later in the year, but when this opportunity came forward, 4th of July, we thought, well, maybe we wind things up that part of the year and have the two celebrations coincide.
Okay.
We're also working in conjunction on that celebration with the Museum of North Idaho, which has, of course, been an advocate for the county's history. We will have a lecture series starting in September where we will have not only the photo exhibit that we will be developing and rolling out, but also a lecture series by some of the people who have served locally in our justice system, law enforcement system, county politics, so that we can reflect on our community at 100 years.
Okay. Great.
Anything else on that?
Anything else on the 250? Okay. On to the next.
Great. So as you know, we are a certified local government. The Kootenai County Historic Preservation is the oldest CLG in the state. Every year we apply for a grant, to the State Historic Preservation Office. That grant funding comes from the National Park Service. There's $120,000 up for grabs this year, and we would like to submit a grant application again. The grant application that we have focused on is I guess we call it a reconnaissance survey, or a survey of the buildings at the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds are unique. They are a cobbled together series of buildings that have been changed over time. Because of that pattern, we actually don't know very much about their historic significance. So we know that they have historic significance. We don't know at what level what that means. Given that it looks like the fairgrounds is going to be continuing in its current location with those buildings, and if there is future development of those buildings, it's important for us to know what we have. So if there are going to be changes, it would inform your decision-making on how those things will change over time, what is available. It is an exercise in preservation, of course, but it's also an exercise in what doesn't need to be preserved. So given our lack of knowledge of the buildings and their significance, we saw this as an opportunity to kind of get ahead of the game on development. If the county were to go forward by making any changes at the fairgrounds, part of the analysis anyway would be how old is the building, what significance is there, and what's available to change, and if you can change it. On the other hand, there's opportunities if we know that some of them have historic significance for grant funding and remodeling of the facilities. So we saw this as a good opportunity for us to find out what we have at the fairgrounds between Farragut buildings that were moved in, Conservation Corps buildings that were moved from McEwen, the old Weeksfield Airport. We would produce a document at the end of this grant period delineating the history of the fairgrounds along with what the built environment is made of. The grant itself is a standard grant where we do a 50-50 match. So the hours to match the grant funding would come from the Historic Preservation Commission, the Fair Board, and the North Idaho Fair volunteers. We also would like to work in conjunction with the Museum of North Idaho with their volunteers to have those matching hours. The amount of money is $8,000. We think that we can probably get a contractor to perform the survey work, and that would be where the funding goes to.
Okay. And then if anything was moved at the end of the 20 years, is that still possible?
So nothing that we do would place any restrictions at all on the ability to change the buildings or to develop the fairgrounds.
It's more a circumstance to better inform a future decision.
Okay, great. All right, and that'll come to us in a week or two as well?
It is prepared and it's been submitted to you. It can go on your next business meeting whenever it is you're ready. It has not gone to legal for review yet. It is due on January 31st.
Okay.
It should go to legal as quick as possible.
I don't know that legal does grant applications.
It needs to.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard.
Yeah.
It's just a description of the project, who will be involved, what the amount of money is. There's no grant agreement unless we're awarded the grant. This is just to apply.
Right. Yeah, just permission to apply, and then you might get it, you might not. So, okay, great. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Thanks for, thanks for the update. Appreciate that. Yeah. All right, item 4, the Assess, Collect, Distribute Committee update with Mr. Savage, and I see our Assessor Bailey Kovacs is here as well.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is an update I'll be focusing primarily on our occupancy roll timing as an update. If you remember last year, I brought to you a change where we're going to push back our occupancy roll timing. So I wanted to let you know how that went, and an update to Project Simpatico. So on the occupancy roll timing, we were successful in moving the time frame back for the occupancy roll back to November. We met all of our internal deadlines and were able to mail on our assigned due date of Black Friday. That gave us exactly 4 weeks, which put the cutoff for appeals to December 27th. We only had one appeal out of 1,350-ish parcels, which was very successful. And our internal objectives for this were to even out the workload, take the strain off of December, and help both our internal data team and the appraisers. We didn't want appraisers getting 40 parcels to have to put on the roll at December 15th when it's due in 2 days, and I did not want to spend Christmas Eve with Matt Snow balancing the roll either, as I'm sure he didn't want to spend it with me also. Thankfully, we were able to avoid all of that. December ended up being a very smooth month. We were able to get everything out. We were also able to leverage the TSB report for the new assessment notices for the occupancy roll. This helped immensely and left our roll in a flexible state. It is still in a flexible state until it is fully done, which will happen after you guys hear that appeal. We can push everything to the treasurer's side. So far, everything has worked really well on that, and I think we're going to make this the operating standard moving forward, and it gave us a lot of runway. I'd like to say thank you to IT for being flexible and helping us with our balancing. We started to post months ahead of time and did our balancing months ahead of time. So by the time it got to November, it was very smooth. I think we had 2 parcels we had to balance, which made everything much, much easier. We'll be doing that moving forward. I don't think we'll be doing consecutive mailings of occupancy notices after we bounce that idea around between our staff and your staff. I think we'll stick with a bulk mailing in November and move forward from there, unless the board would like something different or something is easier on staff. But at this point, I think that's probably best practice. As far as Project Simpatico goes, coding has been finished by XTR and tested on the assessor side. We're now waiting on treasurer side testing, as it does everything we pass through to them does have some effect, and so there's still some lingering questions about what that testing looks like. And our biggest obstacle is going to be abstract generation. I don't know if you're aware, but all of our abstracts are generated internally through our own internal reports. We'd be moving to the TSB dashboard for abstracts. The big thing is when we implement this, we can't really go back because the data is going to fundamentally change. So we need to be very sure that we can generate abstracts and meet all of our statutory obligations. So we're double checking that and we're testing all of that very thoroughly. But we should be looking good to move forward and implement before our next roll is our goal.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
I wish to commend Dyson for the work that he's done and my staff. I think they've done extraordinarily well as I'd like to commend XTR for their expertise and their help in realizing this project. I would like to add also that the cost for testing for and by the Treasurer's Office, although we recognize there is a potential impact, we were informed by XTR that they have done a very, very thorough testing for the effects and the changes that occur that will impact the assessor side. Obviously, the Treasurer's Office is downstream from the assessor, and so is there a potential for impact? Yes. And I initially made an offer to the Treasurer's Office that we would assist in covering some of the costs of testing. After evaluating statute, I don't believe that's a use of the funds that I can expend. And so I've doubled back to the Treasurer's Office and informed them that we cannot cost share in their testing. I understand why they would want to test, and I encourage them to go ahead and do that, and to possibly even rely on XTR to do the testing for them. As I understand it, they are now taking a look at a cost proposal from XTR, which my understanding is you should be getting from the Treasurer's Office within the next week or two. So, thank you.
Okay, any questions for Bailey? All right, thank you for the update. Okay, all right, our last item, Windsong land parcel update with our Community Development Director, Mr. Callahan, and our Chief Deputy Operations Director, Mr. Davidson, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. We also have the entire code enforcement staff behind me because this is a matter of some considerable concern. It's here in part because Commissioner Matari asked us to put this on today's agenda, but also because I believe this is a good example, if you will, of why we need to work together in an intercooperative way with other departments, the assessors and the treasurers, to try and prevent this sort of thing from happening in the future. I will just spend another 2 or 3 minutes opening up with the big picture and then turn it over to Craig to drill down the details. But here we have a situation where the county has sold off a parcel of land at least twice over a period of some considerable time, and it's created a problem from the neighborhood because this entire parcel has an easement over it for access to some 8 other parcels. It's the primary and only access. So frankly, if it was solely up to me, the county should never have actually sold this to a private party. It should have only gone, like we have recommended in other tax sales, to an adjoining neighbor that has one of the easements, because they all have an interest in this large easement that covers the entire property. I say that with that certainty because at this point we have a private owner that's gone in and Craig will show you, installed multiple things that have created issues for the neighbors. The neighbors are justifiably concerned and upset and other adjectives. And in my view, all of that could have been avoided if we'd have sold it to the right, we, the county, had sold it to the right entity. But also, I think, to me, the real takeaway from this morning is when you add in our legal counsel's time, my time, Craig's time, code enforcement's time, and 22 sheriff deputy visits, I would venture to say we spent more than $20,000 of county staff time, all of which could have been avoided, again, in my view. I know there's countervailing concerns about getting tax sales out in a timely fashion that meets statutory requirements, but I also know our legal counsel's on top of that, and you'll hear their version of what we can do about these things at a later date. But with that, I'd like to turn things over to Craig just so you can see some of what's difficult about this parcel.
Good morning, Commissioners. Craig Davidson, Deputy Director for Operations for Community Development. I also have George Sepulveda here with me, Code Enforcement Supervisor, for any questions you may have. And there are a couple public members as well that live in the neighborhood probably would like to address this as well. Well, the purpose of the update, I think Director Callahan pretty much hit the nail on the head with that one, so I will go through this to the next slide, give you an orientation. North obviously is up. Highway 53 is a crossroad here, east-west. Windsong Lane is, Windsong Lane is the north-south road, and it's a private lane. It's a 60-foot wide easement. It's about 2/10 of a mile long, maybe a little longer, and it's a mile west of Atlas. So this is just a Google map overlay as you're facing south, looking down Windsong Lane itself. Again, it's a 60-foot private easement. Now, of note, that drive aisle is basically probably about half of what the actual easement is. The west side is lined with various growths of trees and some rock outcroppings that have been moved over, but nevertheless, it is a 60-foot easement, 2/10 of a mile long. So, not to belabor the point about parcel owner history, the county has actually had this in acquisition on 4 different occasions: 1989, 1994, 2009, and 2019. After 2019, obviously it was sold to a private party whom had it, and it's been resold as of last July to the current private party, of which the contention in the neighborhood has begun. This is what Director Callahan was talking about, our involvement. Initially, we received complaints because the gentleman brought an RV on the parcel, began living in it. We obviously sent out the notices, and our legal attorney was involved also for an imminent legal action letter during the period of August through December of 2024. He did remove the trailer, however, left some debris behind. Jordan and I went out there on December 31st, met with the concerned owners of adjacent parcels, and we assessed the property. Another notice of violation was issued for the International Property Maintenance Code. You'll see pictures. There's the county's involvement as far as the calls for service from July through December, mid-December, for those specific types of calls, including weapon offenses. We all know deputies rolling for weapons offenses, it takes at least 2. And so we've had a substantial amount of resources donated or actually given to that property. Additionally, there's been 2 temporary restraining orders issued as a result of the actions in the neighborhood. It takes district court time. There's several photographs that I'll just page through for you. So you can see this was what we looked at on December 31st. You've got a debris pile there, and you've got several rock outcroppings stacked up. He's got some personal equipment that's out there. There's nothing we can do. That's not a code violation, but nevertheless, he does come back intermittently to attend to the property or at least check on it. Just items such as this that are just sitting out there. And the concern is for the neighborhood, obviously, should there be a snowstorm and some snow removal, this does impact their ability to traverse through the easement. There's just kind of junk and debris laying around on a parcel. A note on the mattress, but again, it's junk. And this was a video actually, one of the road maintenance individuals sent to me. It was lengthy, so I just took basically a snapshot of it. But the property owner actually took some boards, laid them upside down, placed nails in them with the nails sticking up. They were removed by the concerned parties for the road maintenance crew to avoid any potential injury to animals, pets, or people. Subject to your questions, I know there's a couple people that want to talk about this that have concerns.
Right. So what is it that you need from the board? I understand this is an update and you're going through the legal process and everything. Is there action that you need from the board down the line?
At this time, but Sarah's worked up some meetings, at least one that we scheduled and another, I hope, soon to follow, where we really need to work together with the assessor and the treasurer to come up with a system to deal with the sale of property.
Good.
For BOCC action and advice for recommendations of how to disposition the parcels.
But at some point, it would be helpful to me if the board could take action to say this is going to be henceforth and forevermore the way we address parcel sales for the
Sure.
town.
Yeah. But we don't have that specific plan yet.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
We're in close collaboration with the treasurer's staff. We've got an upcoming meeting to address some of these issues and probably come up with some workflow processes and things like that for the formalization of it. But we definitely need to move in that direction to prevent these things as much as possible from happening again.
Sure. Right. So I will go ahead and ask for public comment now. You can come up to that microphone or to the one up at this table.
I do have a question too.
Okay, so on this particular property? Okay, go
As
ahead.
well as a separate matter.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Commissioners, I've heard Director Callahan mention a couple times cooperation or coordination with the assessor's office. I was asked to attend a meeting on this specific parcel in the Commissioner's office. I did attend that meeting. I reviewed statute. Nowhere in statute does the assessor have anything to do whatsoever with the sale of these types of properties. This function is solely and entirely a function of the Board of County Commissioners. My question would be, what would be the expectation of the assessor's office, because I have, like I said, done a review of the statute, and I've obtained the assistance of legal counsel to assist me with that review. And I'm just curious as to what could be done. I would like to add that for 20 years, or nearly 20 years, I worked for Spokane County, and it was my responsibility to dispose of surplus property, both personal and real property. And to my understanding, when you dispose of something via sale, I don't know, and I've read Idaho statute, and I understand that the laws are different between the states, but it's still a competitive process. And I am searching for what the board could do to possibly somehow deny a potential buyer a highest bidder from actually successfully buying and bidding on the property. This fundamentally, and I realize this is impacting the county, and I don't in any way disagree or deny that, but it's fundamentally a code enforcement issue. And so the cost and the problems that are incurring is surrounding around how a property owner is now using their property, which I don't know how anyone could foresee what that would happen before it goes to sale.
So I heard two separate issues. Number one, they're figuring out what they need from the assessor's office. So I don't think they know right now. So being a part of those meetings would be helpful to them to see if there is any assistance. And then the second thing is, was this particular one sold at auction, or was it one of the ones that came before us for after auction? Do we know?
I believe it was sold at auction.
At auction. Okay. Well, and again, that's going to pose a larger problem, that we're going to have to overcome. But we have also had some problems with ones that were sold not at auction. So, yeah. So it's a work in progress, and all these things will be addressed.
The only other thing I'd like to add on this issue is it was stated in the previous meeting that I attended that there was a perception that the assessor is somehow involved in identifying ownership. We are not. We do not make any determinations of ownership, and I have a legal opinion supporting that. The only thing we do is we examine the public record documents that are recorded. It is the veracity of the public record document that identifies and determines ownership.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Go ahead and push your button, please. Thank you. And there you go.
Good morning, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Duncan, and Matari, who's listening in. I am Beth Osborne, and I am the big adjacent landowner to...
do you want to put that up, Craig?
Yeah, do you want to put the picture of it up, Craig? Thank you so much. I'll just... Yeah. So this is the portion of Windsong Lane that we're talking about. This here, and this is my parcel. I currently live here, and then we're currently building a home here with an active building permit. And then a couple of my neighbors are here as well, and we are all part of the Windsong Lane Roadway and Easement Association, and it's our responsibility as the dominant estate over that easement to maintain, improve the thing whenever, that needs to happen. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, but I would like to give some more clarity as to the history of the parcel. So for the last 35 years, the easement of Windsong Lane has had an incorrect land type with an incorrect assessed value. So it all started with Earl Hansen back in the late 70s. He owned the parcel. He owned the whole northwest quarter of that section. And he set aside that 60 feet for easement and then forgot about it or something. And so he owned it from 1977 to 1989, where the county got it back due to lack of tax payment. And then the county sold it at that tax deed sale in '89 for $900. The county got it back due to lack of tax payment because they thought they bought a parcel, a residential acreage that was actually non-buildable land. It was sold again at the tax deed sale in 2000 to Yeager and Rich, who purchased the parcel for $2,500. County got it back again, and then it was sold again at the tax deed sale in 2019 for $4,500. Everyone purchased it for a supposedly valuable residential acreage parcel, but eventually they realized that they had purchased an easement for a road. Because it was land typed incorrectly, it said residential acreage instead of non-buildable land. And then at the last tax deed sale in 2019, when Gregory Sheldon purchased the easement, it had an assessed value of $78,000. And the good news is that due to contact with the assessor's office, they have redone the land type to non-buildable finally after 35 years and given it an assessed value of $1,000. So, if we want to talk about exorbitant expenses, all these people purchase it spending more than they should, and then all of the calls to the sheriff's department. I currently have a protection order against Mr. Willoughby for stalking and harassment. There's been a lot of horrible, horrible things, and I've been incredibly traumatized by him being able to be there. But solution, kind of the solution that we would like to see happen as the neighbors is to address the code, because Mr. Willoughby came in there expecting to be able to temporarily and intermittently use his RV there. And there's nothing in the code that says that he can't. And I don't expect to address those vague terms right now. Temporary and intermittent use of an RV in Kootenai County is a big issue. But what I would like to ask is that the county would add add to the code that would exclude all overnight camping or RV use on an easement. And that, if that was in place, nobody's ever tried it before, but they tried it here, and it was a big problem. So if that could be included in the code to exclude all overnight camping or RV use on an easement. And the other thing is that the neighbors and I are hoping that the county will make it right, because if not, we're still stuck with this man owning this parcel. And for us, if the county would make it right, would be to approve an unbudgeted expense to purchase the property back from Mr. Willoughby, and then so it could be dedicated as a roadway to the Windsong Lane Roadway Easement Association.
So all the people who use the easement, have you talked about pooling your money to buy this property from the current owner?
We have talked about it, but it is a lot of the people who live down the road are retired. There's my parcel plus 8 more, so 9 parcels, only 6 property owners, and it would be very expensive for us to try to purchase that. Many people have opted out, saying they just couldn't afford to add that into their budgets.
So what was the purchase price from Willoughby?
It was just under $10,000, about $9,700 if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right, well, the board can talk it over with staff, and I think the definite intermittent, or the no camping, I should say, just the no camping on easements, that we can have that done right quick. So I would be willing to support that coming forward. Purchasing it would be another matter, and we followed the law, so it wasn't, we don't have control over bad actors, right, except through code enforcement, but we'll continue to work on this matter in every way that the law allows us to. So.
Brad Cedarbloom, 15568 North Windsong Lane.
Thank you.
I understand there's a luncheon for you, Commissioner Brooks, so I'll try to get through this, but you might have to postpone it.
Well, you're invited, of course.
Okay, and the left-hand side of the jacket is what's the cover page, what's included. Behind that, there is 3 different Idaho code statutes that Mr. Willoughby is violating and has violated, and no action has been taken on it. The right-hand side is all the evidence that I have, or some of the evidence. The first one is a map with the Windsong Lane highlighted. Item number 2 is a topographical map. The first one is the legend that's on there. This was done just recently, within a couple of months ago. So this was the topographical map. Of course, you can't read it, so I did a couple of different blow-ups on here. And if you'll go to the last page of item number 2, and it's oriented like this for north. You can see the gravel road as defined by the legend, but also there's a trailer that I've highlighted in red. There's these rock walls that Mr. Willoughby has put up next to the road that is of great concern to me because I maintain the road. I plow the snow in the winter, I hire the grader, I use my tractor and its grader. This prohibits any snow going that way, and you can see he's at the narrowest portion of the road. I have to push snow that direction. Aside from these items on here for rocks, he has stationed rocks all along and obstacles all along on the west side of Windsong Lane. He calls it, well, there's a rock hedge from Singer's Field for years of dumping rocks there, and he calls it a historic 100-year rock wall that he didn't want to disturb, but he did all of that himself.
Oh, it's placed there deliberately to
Absolutely.
make it difficult for you to do what you do.
He's under the misconception that in fact, the first contact we had with him, he had a petition for his portion of the easement. Well, Windsong Lane is the entire easement. Here's his petition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where he states in here his portion of the easement. That was not in your cover sheet, by the way. Item number 3 is the easement documents from Earl Hansen dating back to the first one, where he did split off 60 feet for an easement. It's recorded. It's a 3-page document. Item number 4 is our road association document. We've had a road association on there before, two others prior to this. This was the latest one, and it is on record with the county. Number 5 was Beth's email to Craig Davidson dated 1/3/2025. It was similar to what you had here, but on the bottom of that I have highlighted Kootenai County has had intermittent possession of this parcel for 15 of the last 35 years. Number 6 is the notice to violation, and that is dated, so on the front page is setback violation, and it has 25 feet of the easement. Trailering and retaining wall do not meet the setbacks. Down at the bottom, I've highlighted the corrective actions. Move or remove the structures or portions of the structures in the violation. On the second page, I've highlighted A, The RV shall have current registration and shall be in serviceable condition so it can be operable and safe in a lawful manner upon the roads and highway in the state of Idaho as set forth in the motor vehicle laws of the state of Idaho, Title 49 Idaho Code. That trailer has not had a registration or a license on the back of it since it was pulled in there. The whole trailer was painted brown to cloak it, including all the running lights, tail lights. It was not operable or serviceable. On D, the RV must be hooked into a sewage disposal system which meets the requirements of the Panhandle Health District, or shall be self-contained and removed from the site to empty holding tanks on an approved location. That trailer never moved. He told, I don't know whether it was George or Panhandle Health, that they had a composting toilet. But for the gray water, once the trailer was removed, there's the pit right in the ground they've been digging it. When George and Craig came out, I asked them to come take a picture of it, and he said they weren't allowed to trespass, which, ironically, they were standing on Mr. Willoughby's road, Windsong Lane, and so therefore they were trespassing, but they wouldn't know to take a picture of it. Corrective actions on that same second page, C2. Site must meet the standards of temporary and intermittent use of the recreational vehicle, and it was dated 8/12/2024.
So, Mr. Cedar Bloom, is the trailer still there?
No,
Or is the trailer gone?
it was removed.
So the trailer arrived July 20th, 2024, and Mr. Willoughby removed it December 11th, 2024, 2 days prior to his hearing involving me, because I had a temporary protection order at the time. We were going to go to court on the 13th. So he removed it ahead of time, and I 100% believe because he thought he wasn't going to be able to come back to get it. So we did pull it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, Craig.
Yeah. I would just like to address Mr. Cedar Bloom as far as that was my decision not to enter that part of the parcel because it is private property. And I just thought it'd be in the best interest that we stay on the roadway as known in the course of our duties, and that's why.
Okay. So at this point, is the county doing everything they possibly can except for the new code section that we can
Yes.
examine?
I think what's always hard for people, and myself included, is that we must go to district court in order to enforce the Land Use and Development Code, which is everything that's in front of them. District court judge must make that decision. We're not there yet.
And should this continue the way it is upon recording of this current violation, this would be worthy of approaching the BOCC for authorization of the $1,000 a day fee.
Yes, this would be our first opportunity.
Okay. All right. Bill, do you have any further questions?
No, but I think whatever we can do, we should do. Unfortunately, I won't be here to do it, but if I were, I would. But I won't, so I can't.
So at this point,
If you could jump to the last document, I have pictures of the obstacles that he has placed deliberately to deter any access or to damage my equipment. On the first page there, Beth called the sheriff called him. He denied any knowledge of it, although I saw him putting it up and another neighbor saw him putting it up. So we removed it that night. When we were in court for Beth's civil hearing, the restraining order, he said we destroyed thousands of dollars worth of lumber, and that was his lumber yard. The next one is he wasn't done building it at this point in time, but all those boards were pallets, and they pried it off and left the nails up, as you can see on the third picture. After we removed it, the next day he went through pallets all over it again. And this is across from their driveway of their new build, and so any truck that would be pulling in or pulling out quite possibly would be running over this. He also built this thing that looks like some kind of a tank trapped off of World War II beaches or something. He put that out, we put it in his fire pit, he put it out again, it's burned now. These are the rock walls that I have the biggest concern about in the last 2 pages. for corrective action today, I would like a letter from the county for me to remove those rock walls before it snows anymore.
I don't know that we have legal authority to do that.
That's a legal call, not a planning call.
Right,
I
and-
don't think we do either.
Where are we at with district court? Do we have a date set?
Don't believe so. Do you know, Craig?
No, the state, because on the original violation, he's just owes fees. The secondary violation, it's due to record. George, what next?
28th is the 28-day appeal notice date, and then we have 17 days after that.
Okay,
And
so
then
we're
we can
still
go
a month
further.
out.
Actually, yes, a month
Still
out.
a month out. Okay. I do guarantee you, though, that through legal, through community development, through code enforcement, that we're taking every action that we possibly can that we're allowed to. And then with the new addition to the ordinance that we will take up and consider, that will at least help the trailer from coming back. I wish there was more that we could do. Unfortunately, I mean, we've got bad actors in several locations throughout the county, and, you know, we're limited on following the law at this point. So I do appreciate your presentation, and, you know, Mr. Cedarblum, you put a lot of work and effort into this, and I appreciate that. Helps us understand the trauma, honestly, that's happening right now.
Well, nothing
And-
is happening on the other end. Sorry to interrupt you, but Callahan dismissed every one of Beth's arguments. It's in their packet.
So, Craig, do you?
We still have the current code violations. We still have the last one that's not been closed out because he owes fees. We
Right.
still have the capability to go forward to district court, and we still have the capability to seek BOCC authorization for a $1,000 fee a day, which you'll see me before you for that purpose at the point in time I can on completion of the recordation of the notice of violation.
Okay. All right, so we'll look forward to that, either whatever time we can get at business meeting or CD meeting, whatever closest.
Yes.
So, okay. All right, well, I wish that, the problem is laws are made for good people because bad people don't follow laws. And so it's one of those situations that's terrible and ugly, and that, you know, it's a terrible time of year to have to deal with this, with snow plowing and all that. But we'll keep on top of it. And as a matter of fact, if we can have weekly updates, that would be helpful to know where we're at with this. So, all right, Bill, any other questions? Okay. So thank you for coming in and presenting that to us. And again, we'll stay on top of it and figure out all of our options with existing law. So, okay. All right, is there any other public comment this morning?
Yes, Commissioners, I have two more. First one is a comment that I'm simply giving voice to. It's a comment that a request that I've received from staff, from personnel, and that is with regard to the street that lies just north of our property here. There's a parking lot across the street. And in the winter months, during the dark hours, when people are leaving the work to go to their cars, they're very concerned about crossing the street. It's not well lit. Often people have dark vests on and dark clothing, and a few people have mentioned to me that there's been some close calls. I realize that that's a city ordinance issue, probably, but I'm wondering to what extent the county could perhaps make a request or work cooperatively to get some lighting put in there for the safety and well-being of our employees.
So we're actually looking at a flashing crosswalk.
Okay.
And I don't know if we are delayed by the construction on Garden.
Okay.
But we have talked to the city several times. It was a matter of funding at one point, but I think that I think we're closer to making an agreement with the city of Coeur d'Alene.
Well, that's a good idea, but the request that I've received is more lighting in the area so that people can be seen.
And again, I think the city would partner with us on a crosswalk before they would install any lighting.
Right, okay.
But yeah.
Okay, and then the second issue, I simply wish to bring the board's attention to this. I realize this is probably something the board has no control over. We are now into the property tax reduction season for the assessor's office. Normally, we get a high volume of traffic and phone calls and people visiting our office to apply for circuit breaker, veterans benefits, what have you. But last week, we received roughly 1,800 phone calls that were rerouted from the treasurer's office to the assessor's office. And when our staff had conversation with these individuals, they really were fundamentally calling for a property tax bill or a treasurer issue. The problem, well, there's two problems. My understanding is we've been getting a lot of complaints from those individuals that have been calling about not getting property tax bills. I would ask that the board or the treasurer could put up some sort of public announcement. It seems that something has happened where a good number of people have not received their property tax bills. Something that's more extraordinary than what perhaps might be normal. The other thing is I would ask that the treasurer adjust their telephone automated answering system. Typically, a lot of people in the public get confused between what are the responsibilities of the treasurer office and what are the responsibilities of the assessor office. A lot of people think that there is a tax assessor. There is no tax assessor. There is a tax collector, and that's the treasurer.
And have you
So my
talked
only
to the treasurer about the tree?
We have, but they have their own phone system, which I believe is separate and apart from the county's phone system. They got funding, I think it was ARPA money, where they were able to contract and have an independent telephone system. Typically what happens is people, they want to get a live body on the phone. We answer our phones in the assessor's office. And when people can't get somebody on the phone in the treasurer's office and they call in, the first option that is on the automated line is something to the effect of if you have questions about your property tax or your assessment, and then people want to get a live person, so they immediately press that and they come to the treasurer's office. But we only discover that they really do have a treasurer issue, and then we have to reroute them back.
So like you said, not much we can do.
I understand that.
Operational issue.
Well, maybe with regard to the late notices, or if notices.
If the treasurer wants, if the treasurer wants to partner with Jonathan, our communications coordinator is always available to other elected officials to get the word out.
Yeah, and then maybe some sort of an announcement also in terms of the best way to get a hold of the treasurer if they have questions. I think that might be helpful to the community.
Yeah, if the treasurer reaches out to Jonathan, it's not a problem at all. We can make that happen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, 11:03, meeting adjourned.